Hey, it's basically been a year since I uploaded anything, so let's talk about Blackwater, a graphic novel by Jeanette Araro and Ren Graham. It's a graphic novel, obviously, and I bought this originally at Barnes & Noble's as a gift for a family member of mine, but it looked good, so I bought my own copy. The book is listed on Amazon for teens 14 to 18 or grades 10 to 12. The first couple pages are also on Webtoon, and the book has a Tumblr that may or may not have the whole thing on it. I didn't check every page on their Tumblr, but it at least has the beginning and I think the end. Anyway, let's get into it. I'm gonna try to be quick, I guess, because I feel like my videos just work better when they're shorter. So yeah, let's get into the story. Oh, spoilers, by the way. I don't include a lot of details, but like there's ones in here that are like spoilery. So if you don't want to listen to it, then yeah, I get it. You should read the book though. So Blackwater follows Eli Hirsch and Tony Price, who along with their friends are trying to unravel the mysteries going on in Blackwater, Maine. Specifically, this graphic novel follows the mystery around a beast that has been prowling the forests near their town and the repercussions after a dangerous run-in with it that Tony has during a hunting trip. I should mention that Eli can see ghosts since that's plot relevant. They never specify if his ability is genetic or if it has to do with his health disorder. However, that could be for another book. I have no idea if there's a second book to this. And I just wanted to mention those two things because they are supernatural and they're like the most supernatural thing about the book. Other aspects of the book are more or less slice of life, actually. We see Tony and Eli growing closer throughout the story. We also see character development between like Tony and his dad and just general exploration of high school friendships. Yeah, I don't know. Let's get into the characters. I'm gonna go over Tony and Eli specifically. Other characters of note are Marcia, who is Tony's like goth witchy best friend who has a lot of knowledge on supernatural stuff and so therefore is helpful when stuff starts getting weird, and Biff, who is Tony's other best friend and kind of a jerk. He bullies Eli and assumedly other students and is a general rabble-rouser. Tony is described as gregarious, snide, and full of rebellious energy, as well as a heartthrob track star of the school. And he is also a rabble-rouser, but not in the same regard as Biff. He's less chaotic evil, I guess. And we see that Tony cares deeply for his friends, but is also able to recognize over time the negative effect that they can have on people around them. The two kind of like squabble leads to Tony's run-in with the beast is a werewolf, and Tony gets bitten by a werewolf, so then he becomes one. Throughout the story, Tony becomes more outspoken for Eli and more emotionally available. He also begins to develop an understanding of how to control the werewolf curse via his emotional intelligence. We see Tony's dad throughout the book too, and although they do have a strained relationship, it gradually becomes clear that they are able to form a closer relationship over time through effort. I'm going to talk about Eli now. So Eli Hirsch is described as reserved, and to me he comes across as a little bit cautious. It's established early on that he's uncomfortable around his peers, less from anything about himself and more of an inherent fear of persecution. He has a number of health-related things going on in the book that leads to negative feelings from his classmates and even his teachers, as well as like outright bullying or harassment from people. So it's clear that he wants to keep that stuff covered up because people are already bullying him. What would they do with additional ammo? You know what I mean? We see this front and center at the beginning of the comic when Tony and his friend Biff casually bully Eli at school. I should say it's really Biff who's openly bullying Eli. I really sound like I'm harping on Biff in this video. Yeah, anyway. But it does take Tony a bit of time in the comic to like move from ignoring what's going on to fully defending Eli. We also meet Eli's mom on and off in the comic. We don't see her quite as much as we see Tony's dad, but her appearances do a nice job at establishing her character. She keeps herself really distant from Eli and is almost strictly clinical when talking to him, taking more of an interest in him as if he's like a patient than a son. She also seems more concerned about his medications and health than his personal life and well-being, which is like yikes because he is your son. But that's my opinion. It would be interesting to hear someone's opinion who has been in a similar situation, or something, because I'm sure that someone read it and it had a deep personal meaning or like similarity. Anyway, I would love to hear other people talk about this comic and their thoughts on it. Moving on. I'm not going to talk about the relationships of the book because I don't really care. Tony and Eli work well together, in my opinion. Take it or leave it. I think people's mileage might vary depending on how you feel about strained relationship ideas and bullying and stuff being elements of like a romance story. I'm sure everybody has different ideas of what they look for that sort of thing. Take it or leave it for me. I thought it was fine. I don't know. So I talked about the story and I talked about characters. So I'm just going to take a second and talk about the art. The comic itself is in black and white except for splash pages of color, either for chapters or the cover. And I'm sure that the Tumblr probably has some really nice colored pieces as well. The comic proper, like from page to page, is in black and white. I thought that this did nicely with like the theme and the vibe of the comic. It has kind of like an old Hollywood feel to it when it's in black and white, which I personally really liked, especially with the style of the characters. Tony himself reminds me of like a rockabilly guy, so I think that works really well. Actual panels also I think work better with the black and white format, such as the ones that rely heavily on silhouette or blackout images. I think it just gives it a really, really cool effect. It's also a very animated looking comic with heavy use of line and action. So, I don't know. I just think it looks cool. Like, they're not afraid of really letting it be fast and loose when it's appropriate, but keeping the line art clean and clear, which is probably my personal favorite style, I want to say, when it comes to comics. As an avid Tumblr user, both in present but also in the past, it reminds me of what was popular when I was in high school, and I don't mean that as a negative. I do mean it as a positive. I think it works really well with the demographic that the book has in mind. Now I'm going to talk about the werewolves, because this isn't a video that I make without somehow getting werewolves involved in this, I guess. So I like the werewolf designs in this book. They remind me of like ginger snaps, where they're more humanoid than, or maybe dog soldiers, where they almost look like humans but with dog faces. You know what? They kind of remind me of the Wendigo from Until Dawn, where they are very skinny, gangly looking creatures, and the actual transformations, the panel to panel transformation, at least that we see with Tony, and also with another character that I don't know if it would be a spoiler to mention her or not, are just super cool. Like, they do a very good job at kind of this slow, painful transformation, and then like quicker ones as well, kind of one panel to another very fast. I like it. It takes a lot for me to not really like a werewolf design anyway, but I think that I like these ones, especially with the old Hollywood vibe that I already said it kind of has. It just, like, to me it fits very well with the story. There's also ghosts, so I guess I should talk about them. I like the way the ghost looks. He looks cool, and I think that's great. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on, and I think it's hard to sell supernatural stuff that is so unique looking. From the perspective of someone that lived in Maine, I also just like the vibe of the environment. I think it's nice. You get the fishermen, you get the docks, you get the pine trees, and that really kind of is what comes to mind. So yeah, I don't know. I don't even know what I'm talking about anymore. So my general thought and opinion is that I like this comic, and if you don't know if you want to read it, you should check out the Tumblr and or webtoon and or this video, which I guess you're already doing. Oh my gosh. And or you could buy it for someone else like I did, and then read their copy and decide if you want your own, because that's always a good way to do it. I don't know where I'm going with this video. I'm just rambling because I don't know how to make content, so But thanks for listening. I'll attach the Tumblr for the comic and then the social media for the people involved in its creation, and then also the Amazon listing for it in case you want to buy it. Thanks for checking out the video. I hope that it is mediocre at worst, and if you made it this far, thank you so much. Hopefully I'll record something else someday, but it took me 10 months to do this one. So my hopes are low. Have a good night or day, or whatever. Bye, YouTube.